Good morning, Facebook and our Zoom users. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are just going to give you guys a couple of minutes to get joined and settled in for another great webinar on this rainy morning. Good morning, good morning. Welcome. For those of you joining us, whether you're joining us via Facebook Live or if you're joining us on Zoom, if you want to go ahead and just say good morning or hello in your chat box or in the comment section, that would be fantastic. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kylie Gudenkoff with Kirkwood Corporate Training. Before we get started on today's webinar on ergonomics, I did want to share that Kirkwood Continuing Ed is offering a 3-day OSHA course on the principles of ergonomics. That will be on May 18th through the 20th. For more information, please contact Dave Hughes at 319-398-5427. Today's guest is Kaylee Pelosi, a physical therapist at Balance Fitness and Health. Kaylee is helping to lead the industry in injury prevention and ergonomics. She specializes in partnering with companies to take their safety and injury prevention programs to the next level by creating individualized stretching programs, early intervention programs, and providing ergonomic assessments and presentations. Her work has assisted companies in bringing safety awareness to the forefront of every employee's mind, as well as improving their employee health and wellness and increasing employee morale. Along with these assets, it's also been proven to reduce injuries, reportables, and time away from work, which leads to savings for the company. Kaylee excels in these areas thanks to her unique background of biomedical engineering, where she gains unique problem-solving skills along with advanced knowledge of how the body interacts with its settings. She loves getting to know the companies and their employees and helping people live a pain-free life. I want to highlight that Kaylee and Kirkwood Corporate Training have partnered together many times previously. If you've ever attended any of our instructor showcases, you've probably met Kaylee, as she likes to join us on those mornings and get everyone up and moving again and getting us stretching after we've been sitting and learning all morning. She's also worked with companies with us, and one of the unique things about Kaylee is she is comfortable leading trainings in person, online, such as through Zoom, or doing high flex, which is that blended learning opportunities where we have some folks joining us in person and some joining us online. Those can be quite challenging, and Kaylee handles it beautifully. So if you guys are interested after today's presentation in bringing Kaylee in-house, please give Corporate Training a call at 319-398-5623, or you can email us at corporatetraining@kirkwood.edu. Today's presentation is health and safety issues when employees are working from home. An interesting tidbit that I learned from Kaylee and some of her colleagues is that since the start of the pandemic, they've been seeing an uptick in people having workers' comp claims from working from home or working remotely issues. So many of us shifted quickly, and maybe we didn't put a lot of thought into how we're working or where we're working from. And I thought that was really interesting and that this webinar was greatly needed. So after Kaylee finishes today's presentation, she will be staying on to do live Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, please go ahead and submit them. For our Zoom users, you can do that through the Q&A feature or through that chat box. And I do want to note that we are recording today's session. I will be emailing out the recording after we add closed captioning, and we will also be posting it to the Kirkwood Corporate Training YouTube channel, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages. Again, thank you all for joining us this morning, and thank you, Kaylee, for your time this morning and helping us all stay safe and healthy, no matter where we find ourselves working from today. Whenever you would like to get started. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. Yes, so like Kylie said, I'm Kaylee. I'm a physical therapist, and today we're going to go over health and safety issues. So I've done a lot of presentations over ergonomics, but I'm going to hit on a few safety issues that maybe you haven't thought of when you're working from home, just because it's something, a lot of you have been doing it for at least a year now, and maybe some of you are doing it permanently. So I want to help you make that transition so it's safe, you're feeling good. It's just a different environment to be in. So I graduated from the University of Iowa, like Kylie said. I first went into engineering, and that's what kind of got me into this, how how the body fits in its environment. I want to make sure that the environment, you have different tools that kind of equip you with for success. So that way you can set yourself up. And then I went on to do my doctorate in physical therapy. And I've been working now in the work comp industrial rehab area for about 3.5 years. So definitely been doing lots of ergonomics. I do a lot of presentations frequently for companies speaking on safety topics such as lifting ergonomics, desk ergonomics. And then I also do work in a clinic as a physical therapist. So, okay, so what are we seeing from this pandemic is, number one, ergonomics, people working from home. We have a lot of people that are starting to realize that it's, this isn't just going to be something fun that they can do for a few weeks, a few months of working from home. They're realizing that it's going to be permanent, and that, it hurts when you sit at your kitchen table for 8-10 hours a day working, and that maybe that's not a sustainable spot for you to sit and work. So we've been seeing a pretty big uptick in injuries at the clinic, injuries at companies from people that have realized, maybe they're not sitting in the best spot, or they're not working as efficiently at home. And then the other topics I'm going to briefly touch on, electrical safety, trip hazards, your environment, and then some internet security. So those are maybe some safety issues that you don't necessarily think of when working from home, but it's definitely something that you want to keep on the forefront of your mind because it does make a big impact. So ergonomics is what I'm going to focus a large portion of today's topic on. So this might look like some of you guys working from home, or maybe how some of you started working from your couch in your pajamas, and then, went to the desk trying to find something that was maybe a little bit more comfortable or sustainable for yourself. And I'm sure, like that first picture there, a lot of you can relate to that 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon when you're reaching at your neck, trying to stretch some of that tension out. Maybe your back starts to hurt, but definitely have realized that working from home is not as glamorous as it sounded at first, just because the environment is not set up for you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is posture, because posturing when you're sitting all day is huge. If you're sitting in the same position, making your body work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, plus then maybe you go sit after work. So your body is taking, it's taking a big toll on your body to be sitting like that all day. So this diagram here is why it's so important to sit with good posture. So this is the pressure that your discs in the low back feel. So the discs are little jelly-like plaques that sit between your spine and kind of cushion it and help keep some of that arthritis out of there. So when you're standing up, you have 100% of your body weight on those discs. When you lay down, you still have 25%. So you're never completely getting rid of that pressure. But as you can see, as you kind of go up this little diagram here, sitting with bad posture and working, that's what that little barbell and circle here denotes, is doing some sort of work, is 275% of your body weight on those discs in your low back. Add that up 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And then, like I said, if you go sit on your couch at night, you're adding more pressure to that. So even if you're just kind of hanging out, it's still 185% of your body weight on those discs. You're asking for something to happen. You're asking for some low back pain if you're not going to be sitting with good posture there. So just by increasing how you're sitting with good posture and maybe some different ergonomic tips, you can cut that in half to 140% of your body weight. I don't know about you, but I'm going to take cutting it in half, 140% over that 275%, because, 10 years down the road, you're not going to be aching or hurting quite as bad. This is also a really good diagram to show you why standing desks are becoming such a huge part of the office world, why they're so important to be kind of integrating, because you're not putting so much pressure on your low back, even though that seems kind of counterintuitive from sitting to standing. But when you're sitting, you're just not in a good position for that low back. So it actually increases the pressure. So this picture here is how your spine should look. We have a nice S curve, as you can see, and that's how it should be kind of stacked up nicely to distribute the forces. But come 3 o'clock, we probably all start to look like these two pictures. We slump forward, we find ourselves maybe leaning on our desk, and you get this huge curve in the middle of your back. That is called a kyphosis. And maybe you've seen, or maybe you start to notice that is becoming something permanent for you, that you kind of have that natural big arch and curve in your back. When that forms like that, your muscles are getting overstretched, your muscles are getting tight, your spine is actually fusing that way. And then you can see it kind of crunches down on your lungs, on your heart, on your digestive system. So you're going to be dealing with issues like COPD, some heart issues, and then kind of a slow gut too, because you're not having as much space in there that you should. So not only is it good for your muscles and your joints to sit with good posture, but it's also good for everything systemically. So how are we going to set you up for success working from home? Because a lot of you, maybe don't have exactly all the tools that you need. So the ideal tools that you're going to need would be a desktop computer and then your adjustable computer chair. If you're using laptops, if that's what you were sent home to work with, or if you're, maybe mobilely working prior to the pandemic, we have a lot of people who do work at airports, and maybe now that travel is starting up again, you're going to be doing some just coffee shops, random places. And then it's going to be really important that you have other tools like a external keyboard, an external mouse, and then a stand. So that way you can set yourself up for success and not have to kind of hunch over a laptop so much. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some of the basics of how you're going to decrease some of that stress on your low back, since I've now scared you all into making sure you're sitting with good posture. So the first thing you're going to do, and follow along here if you're sitting at your desk at home or at work, you are going to make sure you sit up straight, and you're going to push your hips all the way to the back of your chair. So you should feel your chair hit the back side of your hips and your low back there. That is number one that you always need to start with, whatever you're sitting in, is to make sure you slide as far back into that chair as you can. From there, you're going to want to make sure you have a support for your low and for your mid back. If you're at home, sometimes our chairs are not super adjustable. So I suggest sticking a pillow, or as you can see kind of in that picture, a little towel roll. And what that should do is just kind of nicely cradle that little dip in your low back. If you don't have that, you're naturally going to slump. But just by kind of pushing on your low back like that, you're going to naturally put yourself into a better position. Now, that being said, if you have a chair that's pretty adjustable, most of them these days come with an adjustable lumbar support. So you're going to want to make sure you have that cranked so it's pushing up against your back, and then some of them go up and down as well. So you might need to adjust that so it's pushing right into that small of your back. The other thing I don't like, especially when I go into some offices, is you want to make sure that your chair is locked so you're not leaning way back, because then you're going to be working double time, and naturally you're not going to lean back because you're going to be looking up at the ceiling if you're leaning backwards. And so you're going to sit at the edge of your chair and slump forward. So lock your the chair back, so that way you're sitting up nice and straight. If you're one of the lucky ones that also have a desk chair that has an adjustable seat width, you can adjust that by kind of moving your seat backwards, so that way your legs are hanging off the side so you can sit all the way back in that chair. If you feel like your legs are hitting the front part of your chair and you do not have an adjustable seat, you're going to want to put a pillow or something behind you, so that way you're not sitting kind of perched, as I call it, a desk percher at the edge of your chair. That way you can make sure you're sitting all the way back, getting that back support. The next thing is the seat height. So a lot of times I use your elbows and your wrist to make sure that we get your seat height adjusted. Not necessarily your feet, because we'll get there, but you can add external things to make your feet fit the chair a little bit better. But what you're going to want to do is raise your chair up. If you have an adjustable chair, those should go up and down. If not, you're going to need to find something to sit on in your kitchen chair. what we want is that your elbows are about 90 degrees, if not a little bit more. So I don't want them bent too far. I'll turn this here so you can see. If they're bent too far like this, you're cutting off blood supply and nerves in your elbow. So we want them 90 degrees or a little bit more. And then you want some straight wrists. So you want to make sure that you're kind of set up for success, arms bent here or just a little bit lower, and that your wrist can be straight. And that's how you need to rise up or lower your chair. Now, if you had to rise your chair up a little bit, what you want to make sure is that you're not dangling your feet. Or if you're sitting on a bar stool, dangling your feet is not good. What you're doing then is cutting off the blood supply in the back of your legs, right behind your knees there. So we want them, whether you use a box, a footrest, we all have Amazon boxes hanging around. So when you get one of those boxes in, if you need something, put that down on the ground. That way you can rest your feet comfortably on that box. The other thing people do a lot of, tucking your feet underneath of your chair, whether you're putting your feet on the bars there, crossing your legs, sitting on your legs, all of those cut off the blood supply, kind of put pressure on nerves in your legs. And you may notice that your that your legs are falling asleep or your feet are falling asleep throughout the day. And that's just because you're cutting off the blood supply and cutting off the nerves to your legs. So you want to make sure that they do have some support. Now you are allowed to move as well. You know, sometimes people are like, I just feel like I need to shift around throughout the day. And that's okay. You can, cross your legs, but make sure you're crossing them back the other way then. So that way you're not getting tight on one side, and then come back to your base position with your feet flat on the floor, or flat on your box too. Armrests. So if your chair has armrests, what we want is that your shoulders don't start to creep up towards your ears, so you're not resting them up too high. A lot of times I just take the armrests off or just completely lower them down, so that way I can push your chair all the way in. So if you can't push your chair into your desk, a lot of times you're going to start leaning forward because you don't feel like you have that support, and then you're going to slouch forward. So I put them down so I can sit as far into my desk as I can get. That way I'm naturally sitting as far back with my shoulders back and not slouching forward trying to reach my keyboard. So as I talked about, we want your elbows bent to 90 degrees. And a lot of that, and then we want your forearms or your wrists here to be nice and straight. Those tabs on your keyboards that kind of raise your keyboard up, a lot of times I take those down, because when your tabs are up, you're naturally going to bend your wrists like this. And that puts a lot of pressure on your carpal tunnel, a lot of pressure on the backside of your wrists. So I will just take those tabs and put them down. So when you're sitting at your desk there, you can kind of look and see if you need those, if you don't need those. I do also like the wrist rest that you can rest on, because otherwise your hands may drop off the bottom side of the keyboard and you'll be bent. So that wrist rest just props your wrist up a little bit. So typically I will add those. The last thing for success is your monitor. So how should you have your monitor set up? Approximately one arm's length in front of you, so you should be able to reach out and touch the front of your monitor. And then the top of your monitor should be at eye level. So a lot of times people have their monitors up way too high. And then what they think is that it's going to make them sit up straight and look at their monitor. What it does though is you slouch and then crank your head back and look up at your monitor. And then you're just asking for some neck issues. So keep that monitor at eye level, which will feel very low for some people. Caveat to that is if you have bifocals, actually want you to lower it about you kind of tipping your head back to see your monitor. So keep that a little bit lower. If you have dual monitors at home, or maybe you're using a laptop and a desktop monitor, if you're using those equally and going back and forth, split them right down the middle. So that way you can just turn your head and see both sides. If you use one more than the other, so maybe you have a laptop and a desktop and you're mostly working off of that desktop computer, put that desktop computer in front of you. And then if you do have to go to your laptop, you can turn and go to your laptop. But that just avoids you from constantly sitting with your neck turned in one direction. If you have a laptop and a desk monitor and you're trying to use both of them, ideally you want them at the same top height. That way you're not up and down looking at your monitor. So you want that, once again, at the top of your monitor at your eye level. If you're only using a laptop, which can pose a lot of issues, but like I said, if you're traveling, if that's all you have for the day, what you want to do is make sure that you tip your screen backwards so you're not ducking down trying to read it. You want to make sure it's tipped backwards so you can read it naturally while sitting up straight. Okay, so something I always do during my presentations is we get up and do a little bit of a stretch break, because sitting here for 20-30 minutes is about as long as I want you to sit. Even when you're at home or at the office, I want you to get up and get your blood flowing. So follow along at home. We're going to do a few little stretches here. So the first ones that I have you doing is if you have neck or shoulder pain, these stretches are great. So first one is you're going to kind of cradle your head into your arm and pull it down towards your hip or your armpit. And you'll feel that pull from the back of your neck all the way down to your shoulder blade. Good, switch sides. Stretches should be held for about 10 to 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be too long. And that stretch is great for headaches. You'll probably feel it pull all the way up into your head. So that one really hits some of those headache muscles. The other stretch that you can do when you're sitting here, what you're going to do is use the back of your chair. So once again, this is why I like to have your chair backs locked. And you are going to put your hands behind your head and fold over the back of that chair. What that is going to do is open up your chest, stretch the front part of your chest out, and reverse that forward posturing and that curve in your mid back. So you're going to just stretch over the back of your chair. Typically that one, I like people doing, every 30 minutes to an hour, just to reverse the constant gravity pulling you forward. The other stretch you're going to do to help kind of reverse some of that is grabbing onto the wall, and you're going to turn away from your arm. So maybe you can see this way here. You're going to stretch that front part of your shoulder out. Should pull almost all the way down to your fingers. Good, go ahead and switch sides. And the nice thing about this one, you can grab onto the side of your desk and just turn your chair. You can do it as you're walking through doorways. Just to make sure you're opening up your chest. Okay, if you have wrist pain or maybe some carpal tunnel, these neck stretches are going to be great for you. So what you're going to do with this first one is hold your hand out, and you're going to pull your thumb back. So you're going to reach underneath of your hand with your other one and pull on that thumb. You should feel that all the way through your thumb here. Especially with cell phones, people texting, your thumbs are getting overused. This one is a great stretch, especially if you have kids. This is one that maybe they should start. We are seeing thumb arthritis pop up in even some younger populations than it used to. Go ahead and switch sides. And stretching should be comfortable. So if this is painful, back off of the stretch a little bit. Don't hold it quite as long. Good. The next one, you're going to go palm up and pull down on all of your fingers. Now you should feel that through your entire hand and up through your forearm. And this one's really great for carpal tunnel, especially if you think about sitting and typing all day. This is kind of reversing what your fingers are doing. So it just kind of helps to open up this side of your hand. Good. Go ahead and switch sides. Stretch out that other hand. And these stretches, ideally, do them throughout the day. So like I had mentioned, and I'll mention a few other times, is I want you up and moving or doing some sort of stretching every 30 minutes. And this is an easy one that you can do. The next one is your palm's going to go down and you're going to pull back on those fingertips. And you'll feel this all the way through the back side of your forearm. Great, go ahead and switch sides. Awesome. Should feel that pulling pretty good through your forearms there. The next one, so if you have some back pain, because sitting pulls a lot on that low back, I want you getting up out of your chair. So everyone go ahead and stand up here. What you're going to do is, as you can see in the picture, I'm not sure I can get it all on the screen here, go down towards one side, nice and slowly. You'll feel this pull through your back and pull through the back side of your legs. This is one I hear a lot of people moan and groan when they do, because they just realize how stiff they are. Then you're slowly going to walk your hands over to the center and just hang out there. And it's okay if you can't touch your toes, you'll get there. And then all the way over to the other side. Good. And slowly bring yourself back up. All right, the next one for back pain, and this is an easy one to do when you're sitting throughout the day as well, and I'll tip my camera here. Sitting here, you are going to bring that ankle up onto your other knee and lean just a little bit forward, and you'll feel this stretch throughout your entire hip. And this one, like I said, is very easy to do. If you're sitting there reading an email or in a meeting, you can just sit and do this stretch. Good, switch sides. And if you're unable to get your ankle up onto your other knee, lower your knee down, straighten that leg out, and then you'll slowly work yourself up to being able to tolerate that stretch. Good. All right. Everyone should feel nice and awake again and stretched out. And you'll have all those stretches so that way you can take them and remind yourself to do them throughout the day, because that will definitely help. Like I said, every 30 minutes, I want you doing something, getting up, grabbing some water, doing some stretches, so you can kind of cycle yourself through some of those stretches. Okay, the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is standing desks. So as I had mentioned that one of those first few slides, standing puts less pressure on those discs in your low back. So that is why people with back pain, I definitely do recommend looking into a standing desk, because it's going to help take some of that pressure off. So with a standing desk, the same setup rules apply. So nothing changes as far as how your monitor should be set up, how your elbows should still be at that 90 degrees. The biggest thing is that I want you to make sure you're choosing your shoes wisely. So don't be wearing heels, don't be wearing bare feet even at home if you're going to be standing a lot, because now you're putting pressure through your ankles, through your knees, through your hips, through your back. We want to make sure you have some cushion. So choose your shoes wisely. Maybe pull over your kitchen mat, that anti-fatigue mat if you have one of those. The biggest thing that I see with standing desks is that people think, I have one, I'm going to use it all day long. Standing with poor posture is also possible, and overstanding is also possible. So I like to vary between sitting and standing. This is where you can use that 30-30 rule again. Make your standing desk and stand for 30 minutes and then sit down for 30 minutes. You may need to set yourself a timer because 30 minutes will fly by. But make sure that when you're standing, you're not starting to slouch. You can kind of shift weight. But I want to make sure that you're not standing with terrible posture. So that's why I like to vary from sitting to standing, because it keeps your body guessing as to what's coming next and keeps it moving a little bit. So how can you set up a standing desk at home if you do not have one? Some people may be lucky and they have that Veridesk that they can raise up and down. They are on Amazon for pretty reasonably priced now. So that might be something you want to look into if you're definitely going to be permanently working from home. The other thing is use the tools you have around you. Once again, I said everyone should have their Amazon boxes. So use a box, put your laptop on it, put your monitor on it, and you can make yourself a standing desk at home. So once again, remember that 30-30 rule though. I don't want you standing all day long. If you do make yourself a standing desk, make sure you're varying from sitting to standing. But just look around you and see what you can do to make yourself a standing desk. Okay, a few other safety tips that I said I would hit on here. If you are working from home, look around you. There's all sorts of hazards. So cords, maybe your kids' toys that didn't get picked up. You want to eliminate any trip hazards, because if you are trying to grab some water, run to the bathroom quick between phone calls or a meeting, maybe you're busy, last thing you want to do is trip over a cord, step on a Lego, things like that. So you want to make sure that your area is cleaned up every day and that there's nothing that's going to trip you up. Other things, when you're at the office, there's someone making sure that your smoke detectors are working, that you have fire extinguishers, that you have carbon monoxide detectors. These are things that you might not think about, but they are safety hazards that now that you are spending all day at home or working remotely from somewhere, you want to make sure that you have all of these things in place. So that way, God forbid, and hopefully the situation doesn't happen, but you want to make sure that you are equipped with all of these things to make sure that you're staying safe. And then electronics. So I know at work, maybe you had coffee or some water, and at home you probably have that. But at home, a lot of times I see people using coffee mugs or an open container. Those can get tipped, especially pretty easily at home. For some reason, it seems to happen more than it does at the office. So I want to make sure that you are putting lids on any of the liquids that you have sitting on your desk. That way you don't end up frying your monitor or your keyboard and asking for that problem to start. So I had mentioned that workman's comps, we're starting to see a lot more of these claims coming in. And for some of you that are, maybe have people working under you, or, you're kind of wondering what's covered. The first thing I would recommend is always talking to your employer. So if you feel as though your desk space is not set up properly, and maybe you don't have the boxes and things at home to kind of help you get things set up, talk to your employer. A lot of them are willing to, let you go in and get your desk chair if you haven't done that. Let you go in and get your monitor and all of the things that you had at the office. So that way you can work comfortably from home. These are just some other little tips that, if you're doing the same repetitive movements that you were at the office, you want to make sure that you have the same luxuries that you had at the office, whether that's, your standing desk, whether that's your keyboard, 2 or 3 monitors, whatever you had. You want to make sure that you're working like you would at the office because you're doing the same job. And so if you had everything set up properly at the office, get that properly set up at home. You're going to thank yourself. It also just makes the transition in your mind a little bit easier to separate yourself from home. If you're working from your laptop on a couch, you're going to not kind of be able to dissociate that from sitting on your laptop at home at night as well. So have yourself a separate workspace where you're just going and doing work activities, and then have your couch where you can kind of go and relax. If you are kind of in charge of looking over people at your company, or perhaps maybe you just want to share this with them, we do have a home ergonomics checklist that you can have employees, or that maybe you want to run yourself through and kind of decide if you're working in a safe environment, or if there are things that can be changed. So you want to make sure, kind of go through this list. It goes through everything that I talked about today, your ergonomics, and any of those other safety issues that may arise. And then you can just sign it. So this is just something maybe you want to send out to your friends, or work on send out to someone at your company so that way they can make sure everyone is feeling safe and feeling good when they're at work. Okay, a few other things to kind of keep you feeling healthy and at your best when you're working from home is to make sure you're keeping regular hours. So this goes back to that separation from sitting at home on your couch and then going to work. So, what I do suggest is if you didn't start work till 8 o'clock, don't start your work till 8 o'clock. Sit and have your morning coffee, get your breakfast in, and then transition into that work mode. So that way you can make sure that there is that separation. Create your morning routine. So get up, shower, have your coffee, and then go to work. So that way you're not trying to integrate, work a few minutes here, go do something else, run the kids to school, come back and work. Try and, keep that separation as much as you can. And then if you're given a break, take a scheduled break to make sure that you can go back and forth. You can kind of relax throughout the day and then continue to socialize with your colleagues. This is a huge one that a lot of people have seen throughout the pandemic, is that they're not getting as much socialization as they used to at the office. They're missing out on some of that camaraderie with your colleagues, just kind of talking throughout the day. A lot of places have some chat rooms that you can go in and chat. Take a little bit of time to talk with your other employees and your colleagues to make sure that you're staying sane throughout the day, not just talking to yourself. And then make sure you're leaving the house. So now that it's getting nice out, go outside, take your breaks outside, go for a quick walk, whatever you can do to make sure that you are getting fresh air, that you're not just seeing the same environment. Mentally, it definitely does a lot. The other thing to think about is your eye fatigue. So this is about the 5th time I've mentioned it, your 30-30 rule. You don't want to stare at your computer for more than 30 minutes. Your eyes are going to start to fatigue out. Working from home, you don't have the same lighting. You have a lot more maybe windows, or maybe you don't have windows, but you want to look and make sure that you don't have any glare or sunlight on the screen, which can change throughout the day where that sun is coming from. If you have that glare, you're going to end up squinting and not being able to see as much throughout the day on your computer. So you're going to start to lean forward and squint, which is going to put more pressure on your neck and fatigue your eyes out quickly. You do get drier eyes when you're staring at a screen. So use eye drops or blink more often to help kind of combat some of that dry eyes. And then another big push that I've seen are the blue light blocking glasses, which they do truly work. If you work on a computer all day long, I highly, highly recommend getting yourself a pair of these. If you wear glasses, you can get them added into your current glasses pretty cost effectively at your eye doctor. So talk to them about it. They also do sell them on Amazon for very cheaply. I looked at getting some for my family for Christmas that works on computers all day. And so you can look at Amazon and see what they have. But definitely look into getting some of those. Okay, I want to be respectful of everyone's time and give time to ask questions. So please shoot me with any questions that you have.
Thank you again for joining us this morning. It was great having you, and that was so many great tips. Every time I hear you present on this, I catch myself going, oh yeah, I need to work on that. I know that I am definitely one that likes to perch forward. So thank you again for bringing that awareness. Again, if any of you would like to bring Kaylee in-house on this topic, or to help you create some of those assessments or help your employees to make sure that they are keeping themselves safe and well, feel free to give us a call at 319-398-5623, or you can send us an email at corporatetraining@kirkwood.edu. I do want to remind everyone that we will be posting today's webinar on our Kirkwood Corporate Training Facebook, LinkedIn pages, as well as our YouTube channel. If you like, follow, or subscribe, depending on which platform is your preferred, you can definitely stay up to date on any future opportunities. For our Facebook Live viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to be ending your live stream now. Again, if you join us via Zoom, you get to stay on for the Q&A. For our Zoom folks, please go ahead and submit your questions. All right, very good. So we're getting lots of thank yous and great reminders. So Kaylee, one question that came in while you were presenting was, maybe some of us are recognizing that we already have some of those posture changes that you mentioned way at the beginning. And you gave us some great tips to start being more aware, you know, sitting up, sitting back. I know I pushed my screen back after you made that comment about our laptops. If someone's seeing those damages, what can they do is there any way of reversing those damages, or is it at that point just making the damage not continue?
Sure. So you can, so especially some of those, like I was talking about, your spine and some of those muscles being overworked and overstretched, doing some of the reversal stretching that I talked about will definitely help to reverse some of that. And then it's going to be super important to make sure that you're not falling back into those same habits. Because if it took you, 15 years to develop those, it's going to take you a long time to kind of reverse some of those. So it's going to be really important to make sure that you're staying cognizant from here on out and then continuing to do those stretches. But it is reversible, but it's going to take time. It's not going to be an easy fix or a quick fix. You're going to have to stay on doing some stretching and stay on your posture and making sure you're working on potentially maybe doing some strengthening for your back, so that way it can hold yourself up and not let you slouch so far forward.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question that came in was, how do you know when something is, they didn't want to say normal ache and pain, but that's how they kind of worded it, was a normal, maybe I just need to get up and do some stretching, or it's something that's becoming more serious and now it's really time to be roping in a professional to do those things that you just suggested, like strengthening or giving some advice.
Right, great question. So I would say if it's, interfering with your daily activities, if you're not sleeping through it and you've been trying maybe some of the tips that I've given you, or you've been trying to do something to help reverse it, and those very basic things such as doing some stretching, some ibuprofen aren't helping, that might be when it's time to look to doing something different. So there is, the World Wide Web where you can Google anything. I'd say a lot of times it's good to start there for your very basic stretches or for your very basic ideas. And if those are not working, then it's time to definitely go and seek some further help.
Perfect. Thank you again. This is always so meaningful. And I know that after we did those stretches, I feel so much more awake and so much more ready to tackle the day. And that was a comment we got on Facebook Live as well, which was just that reminder to get up and stretch. It's not just about getting up and walking, but get up and make sure that you're stretching those muscles and making sure that we aren't overusing them in the wrong ways. So thank you again. We had another question come in about where will we be posting this webinar when it's all done. We will add closed captioning, so it takes us a few days, and then I will actually email it out to all of you who registered. And then we'll also post it to Facebook and LinkedIn at Kirkwood Corporate Training, and it will also be on our YouTube channel under 2021 webinars. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. It was Kaylee, thank you for your time. This is such a great topic, and I think it's something that we definitely all need to be more aware of. So thank you for all your insight this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for everyone for joining. So